Welcome to the Social Living Podcast. I am your host, Julian Greene, and I have my co-host here, Jamal Lawrence. How we doing, Jam?
Good man. It's a great day. We started the week well, man. Sun was shining. I felt like summer was here, but yeah, it's a great one today. But no, I'm all good.
Agreed.
I'm all good.
Agreed.
How's things
Agreed.
with you?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Not too bad. I definitely agree with you on that statement because, like, it was sunny and shining over here in London. I guess yesterday it was anyway. Monday was a bit gloomy, and I thought, you know what? We're getting into spring. The days are longer. This is looking
Mm.
nice. I'm happy. Do you know what I mean? And then today it's like I'm working from home. I have to switch the light on. It's 2 in the afternoon. It's like, what's going on?
Mm.
It's like we're in winter all over again, you know? But it is what it
No,
is.
definitely.
It is what it is. But
Definitely.
we got a lot to talk about, man. We got to bang this one out. We got a lot to talk about. So much of so much has been happening over the last 2 weeks, I think, since we last caught up. So
Mm.
yeah, man. Let's should we get into I guess the obvious.
Yeah, man. Let's dive
Ukraine,
into it.
yes, Russia, Ukraine. Did you ever think in your lifetime you'll ever see a war like this?
Not so close to home. Obviously, we've all seen it, how we've kind of used the Ukraine-Russia war and compared it against other wars that have been going on in the world. So I've always been aware of those, but I never thought there would be I'd live through one so close to home. Is probably the
Yeah.
answer. So no, it was a shock to me that it actually went ahead because I know there's been a lot of talk about this for a while, and I just didn't think Putin would make that move. I thought it might have been a cyber war, or I thought we moved on from that, like in Europe anyway. But yeah, the
Yeah.
fact that he's brought it to where it is now, and the destruction he's caused in the last 2 weeks is a madness, madness. What about you? What
100%.
were your thoughts?
For me, I can't say I didn't know I probably didn't put much thought into like another war kind of coming. I wasn't sure. But then at the same time, what I do know about Putin, I would have thought he's the person to do that. Do you know what I mean? I just feel
Mm,
like when it comes to being an alpha male and a leader, I feel like he's one of those guys. You know, you see him jumping into ice, like ice, like what's it called? Like in Antarctica where you like jump on like water, ice water. I don't know what you call
mm,
it. You see him doing that and tackling bears and stuff. Like,
mm,
it's a big difference to what we have over here in the UK, and it's a massive difference. Like,
mm,
we got someone like Boris Johnson who maybe on a one-on-one fight you might think, yeah, I can take this guy, but someone like
mm,
Putin is like, yeah, you'll probably think twice. You know what I mean?
mm.
So, yeah, it surprised me, but then it didn't surprise me at the same time. And if I go by any of Putin's previous behaviors, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, then this is something that I expect. Um, I think a lot of things interest me about the situation. Obviously, it's a sad situation, especially for those who are directly affected, those in Ukraine. I do hope that they're able to find aid, not only just aid, but they're also able to just find safety as well. Like,
Hmm.
and I guess that leads me to the question of the podcast today, because like when you are in that situation, you are dealt like cards and you have choices. And some people be willing to fight, and some people be willing to, you know what, I'm just gonna leave. So
Yeah.
like it poses that question, isn't it? Like, what are you willing to die for? And would you would you go to war, whether it be for your own country, um, or anything else? So yeah, like I think like if you were in Ukraine right now, Jam, like what would your move be?
But it's mad because obviously you, as a man, you can't really move too much. You're trapped. Well, we are anyway with our ages, but I'd in my head, if it would come over, if this was the UK and the UK were at war with a neighboring country, I wouldn't feel comfortable fighting for the country. But what I would feel comfortable is would be fighting for my family and ensuring they're safe. So it could be the same thing, but morally, I don't think I could go to war to fight a war I have no interest in being in, and that I guess the dictators above me have kind of set and put in place. But if it came down to looking after my family, that would be something I'd have to do. But it's been honorable seeing some of the guys and girls in Ukraine willing to fight for their country because you can see there's that love and that passion and that
Of
respect
course.
for the country they live in, and it is good to see. It's just I don't feel that same that same love and respect in the UK. But yeah, it would be interesting to see how that would go down in the UK and see what like
Yeah.
the uptake of people putting themselves forward to be, and also seeing what backgrounds they come from. Obviously, the English guys and girls will like they'd be there in numbers, but it'd be interesting to see what the minority population is like in terms of putting their name forward to fight for their country.
Yeah,
But
I think yeah, if you're a minority, I feel like it makes it a little bit more complex for you.
mm,
Especially if you're in a country that has colonized the country that you might originate from, you know, so
mm,
you might find it hard. But then on the other hand, you could argue, a place like England or the UK has given you so much, and it might be all that you've ever known. So if someone tries to infiltrate that and change that and try to offer a different way of life that you don't agree with, you might be like, you know what, I'm going to go to war for this.
mm,
Um, I think I feel like in today's day and age and what war looks like today compared to what war looked like, I guess 100 years ago, I feel like it's two different things, and I feel like that will weigh heavily on my brain when it comes to making a decision as to what and how I would die for something. Today's episode we are live on stereo, and we do have a lot, so we have comments coming in as well. So I wanna load up this first comment from Land's Way and see what he has to say.
Well, do you feel like the UK represents you well? Do you feel like the UK is a nation that would deserve your livelihood? Or do you think that the UK has proven to you they don't give a fuck about you and the first chance that they are under attack and are about to go down and they're going to throw you under the bus with them? Um, you got to look at it for each individual aspect of how am I going to get taken care of? Because as soon as you convince a person that their livelihood is going to change or their livelihood is going to be threatened, then that's when you're compelled to go to war. Then that's when you're compelled to go to arms and really pick up the fight. You can tell these people for years in warning, like, I'm going to attack you, I'm going to attack you, I'm going to attack you. They're going to prepare, yeah, yeah. But until they see it in front of their face, that's just a blanket in front of anyone at this point.
that's an
Yeah.
interesting point. Interesting point. And just to answer your first question, Lansway, about if the UK represents me well, I think British culture as a whole, I don't think me as a black person I don't think I'm in a place where I feel comfortable being a black person and that I'm going to be respected by my counterparts. And I think history has kind of shown that lack of respect within the black community and other minority communities. But then within Black British culture, I feel like we're starting to pave our way and I guess learn from the lessons our parents and grandparents have kind of gone through to have our own voice and being able to speak out about certain things and creating our own pathways. I think
Mm.
over time it will get better, and I feel like the country will represent me more as we get older. But at this moment in time, I don't think that representation is there fully, and we've seen it from just the guys in the spotlight. We've seen it with Raheem Sterling over the years, Lukaku, with just to mention a few footballers, but Meghan Markle as well to add that into the mix. So yeah, I think we will get there, but at this moment in time, I don't think I feel represented within the country. But yeah, it's a strong question, man. It's a strong
So
question. What about you, Jules?
there, for me, I don't. I feel like I agree with everything you just said there. Because we definitely are in a situation where we're paving the way. The representation isn't quite there for me to be able to want to fight for this country. There's going to be so many people right now that disagree with what I'm saying. Especially like people that might be in your network and stuff because they don't understand it from your point of view. But
Mm,
for me, I feel like obviously our grandparents came here to give us a better lives, and you can argue that we do have better lives here, um but at the same time we know our history, and we know that we're in a country that colonized our country and changed our livelihoods to the point where we only know our bloodline up to a certain point, and that makes it very,
hmm
very difficult to want to fight for that same country. You know what I mean? It makes it very, very difficult. So if this situation was brought, if England was to go to war now, it'd be very difficult for me to volunteer and say, look, yeah, put me up, let's go, let's fight. I'm more likely to try and find a way to migrate to a different country, if possible. And also, as well, the technology that we have today, some wars, I'm not going to war with guns and bullets. Like, people have weapons of, I don't want to say mass destruction, but people,
it is mass destruction.
people have like nuclear weapons, and wars are fought in very in different ways. Like even the UK's reaction to this Ukraine and Russia war, and they're putting sanctions on Russian businessmen or oligarchs, as you call it. They put in sanctions on those guys to hold all their assets and stuff. That's a different war. Do you know what I mean? That's different. That's not a war with bullets and guns. It's like they're interfering with the war to try and, I guess, influence these people who are of influence to try and stop Putin from having like doing this war, but it's not enough, if you know what I mean. So right now we're going to be seeing trade wars with oil, with electricity, with all these different supplies of energy that the UK relies on, the US relies on. There's going to be some big, like, this is just the beginning. We're only 3 weeks into this war. How long do most wars last? Like
Mm.
years, decades, right? I'm just gonna answer this one as well. Lansway, see what you got to say.
And exactly, Jules and Jamal. I'm actually a veteran myself. I served 6 years in the United States Army, and in the middle of my term and my contract, I watched this documentary. And the name of it is called "For the Love of Liberty: The Story of American Blacks and the Military," I believe. But it's "For the Love of Liberty." That's the main story, and it just told the story of Black heroes and their pivotal moments in our U.S. military. And it made me think about how we have done so much for this nation, and yet still in the blink of an eye, you're looked at as a totally different person if you do something that is of that stereotype. You know what I mean? And you know exactly what I mean when I say that. You're not American. You're African. You know?
You know what? It's a pleasure to have you on the show today, Lance. You said it yourself. You're a veteran, and you've already experienced kind of being in the army, and knowing what it's like, especially as a black person as well. You're able to kind of offer that perspective, and I think for myself, I don't reckon I could ever make that jump. There were definitely times in the past where the army recruitment, uh, the way they recruit people is amazing. Like, they sell you a dream. I'm not sure if you've had this in the past, Jamal, but especially when you've come from like an athletic background, they definitely try to recruit you, and it was definitely an option that was on the table. whether I go to college, or university, or whether I go to the army and still earn my degree and still do whatever it is that I can do. And but I guess the fear is, oh, but whenever you are called to fight in a war, you have to go and do that. That could be the war in Afghanistan, Iraq, or any other war that may arise in the future. And for me, just from how deep, I guess, this country has, what's the word? I guess conformed my lineage.
Mm,
I just can't. Do you know what I mean? It just wouldn't make sense. But don't get me wrong. There's definitely things that I would fight for, and and one of those things being, if we were to go back in time, and our ancestors are trying to fight against slavery, I would be first in line for that fight. You know,
mm,
like I would totally be there for that because I'm protecting my history, and part of that history that we have now, we don't know. We don't know that history. If we look at my name, your name, Jam, like those are not ancestral names. Those are names.
mm.
Those are like those are colonized names, and we want to change. Like I I want to change. I would want to change that and fight for our original names, however we may come across them. So yeah, it's a difficult one for me, man. It's a difficult one.
That's a good point, about fighting for our original names, because it's topical as well. Because Lewis Hamilton's looking to change his name to his mother's surname,
Mm,
to kind of pay respect to that. And I think that shows, I guess, for a guy of his stature to make that decision shows the importance of our history and of our name, and the fact that he is knighted and he wants to link that knighthood back to his family's history. It's an important move,
mm,
and I think that will go
mm,
over a lot of people's heads, the
mm,
importance of that move.
mm. No, it's true. I don't think many people consider the name as that important sometimes.
Mm,
Um, I feel like especially in African culture, your name is extremely important. Some of the ceremonies that go on for your name, um, sometimes you get like six, seven names, and it all has like a deep meaning, you know. Um, and I like when you look at sometimes you look at English names, someone can correct me, but if you were like, you know, I don't know, Bob or Robert or whatever, like those names might not have a certain meaning to me. To be fair, I won't be surprised if names like David, obviously a lot of these are biblical names. They might have Hebrew names, like it goes back to kind of like Jewish culture.
mhm,
But in terms of where we're from and where we originate from, like those names will have way more importance to us and connection to us, and even more like you're more likely to carry yourself in a certain way. So
mm.
those are that I'm 100% willing to die for and go to war for, especially if I have the tools to go to war as well. So yeah. Um, I'll quickly talk about. I want to touch on the situation that we have with the sanctions that the UK are doing on some of the, I guess, businessmen or oligarchs, as you say it, in the UK. So the biggest one, Chelsea Football Club, their owner, Roman Abramovich, is a billionaire who owns a football club, and they've frozen all his UK assets. Like, what's your take on that, and do you reckon it will have any effect? Like, what's your view?
I guess him as a person, the effect is, I don't want to say minimal, but it doesn't hit as hard. But the fact they're doing it across the board in terms of all Russian oligarchs, that has a deeper effect in terms of how it I guess takes money out of the Russian economy, which is, like you said, that's a different type of war. It turns into a trade war, and the importance of that. Like I really at first I didn't understand it. I didn't think it was enough. But as I guess,
Mm,
researched it, I found out that, okay, yeah, this will hit home. This will affect the upper class Russians and their wealth and the influence and the power they have in other European countries. So I understand it
Mm.
now, but at first I was definitely like most thinking, is this necessary? Like, is this what we should be doing? But yeah, I get it now. I get it.
I hear you. I think, but I feel like then it's like it. It's like it's almost naive to think that there is no foresight from these people because like someone like a Roman Abramovich, if a war is about to happen, I'm sure he's gonna know. So when it
Mm,
comes to his assets, I'm sure he's gonna be like, well, they're gonna block this or they're gonna block that. So you're gonna have decentralized assets, and I think it doesn't change his power that much. The fact that he's probably just okay to just sell the football club without getting any money from it shows it probably doesn't make that much of a difference at all.
mm,
Personally, we know the likes of Putin has assets. Things like the birth of like cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and things like that are able. These things are used in these types of situations, right? Because you can hold value, you can hold your assets in these places without anybody else taking it or touching it. And
mm,
this is a big thing why a lot of governments are unsure or don't like cryptocurrencies because they can't take that control. They can take control of the things that I guess are legitimate, but things like cryptocurrencies and things like that, these are decentralized. Putin can own so many things and it's not attached to his name. You won't know. Do you know what I mean?
mm.
And he can still
Yeah, I get that.
purchase. He can still purchase weapons. He can still you do whatever, and he can still influence European European countries as well. So I feel like it's like that's almost like walking into their hands. Personally, I think
Mm,
it's like if you do this, it's like okay, great. We really expected that. We're already protected. You know what I mean? They've been probably
yeah,
financing it for years,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
years and years and years and years. And when we're seeing spikes in Bitcoin and blah blah blah, it's because there's billions of dollars or billions of pounds
yeah.
going into these
Yeah.
countries, like going into these things. So yeah, we have to be careful, man, because we don't have the full picture of certain things. So that's another thing as well. So when you are going to war, you don't really know what it is exactly that you're fighting for. But we
Hmm.
might have we might have our personal thing that we feel like we're fighting for, which is like what Lansway said, like your livelihood when that changes and things like that, and that's what you're fighting for. But there's other things like right now we're looking at it, it's like the East versus the West, right? Like
Mm.
that's like the big fight. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I
No,
feel like yeah, go on.
no, I was just gonna say it's a tough one to analyze. Like you said, like we don't know the full story. We don't know the bigger picture on why Putin has gone and done this, and and what Abramovich has done previously to kind of sort himself out to make sure that he isn't as affected by these sanctions and the rest of the Russian oligarchs. So yeah, like you said, it's hard to kind of paint a picture based on a true story. You
Mm,
just got to kind of base it on what you know and do your own research. But
mm. Well,
yeah, I get
and
your
also
points.
just a little bit of common sense as well, because we have to understand, like, when you're a businessman or when you're someone like Putin, you're thinking like 4, 5, 6, 7 steps ahead. So like
Mm,
when someone does something like this, it's like, okay, yeah, like we probably knew that was about to happen. And it's like they're already thinking about, maybe they might be thinking like years down the line, you know. Like Putin, we sometimes have to put ourselves in Putin's shoes to get an understanding of what it is that he's doing and why he's doing what he is doing. There's other things at play where there's the is it like America, the European countries are all part of this NATO um group, right? Where um if anyone of them kind of goes to war, the others will kind of like back it, so to speak. I
mm,
don't know too much about that, but if Ukraine was to join NATO, then that means that Russia, because Russia obviously borders, yeah, Ukraine, that means NATO would be basically at Russia's doorstep. Would you want that? No,
mm,
especially if war does kick off.
mm,
So that you know that that becomes another thing as well. So I'm not saying that Putin's in his right mind to do what he's doing or he's not in his right mind, but I don't know. So, but he must have a reason to do this because he's doing it. There's going to be
So do you
something that
reckon?
he's
Yeah,
holding out. Fam?
it's like it's out of fear almost when you put it like that.
Yeah,
He's trying to, I guess, be proactive to the situation, trying to gain control before he loses it, and then trying to regain it.
yeah,
But yeah,
100%.
I've not actually thought about it like that.
Yeah, because we got to look at it as well because there's other countries that are going through wars in a different way. So if we was to use Jamaica for an example, um, Jamaica is being sold and basically owned by the Chinese at this current moment in time, right?
Mm,
If the Jamaicans understood what was happening, it probably wouldn't happen. But because they don't have that foresight of, um, they're like the Chinese are basically going to gain control. Like for example, I heard the Jamaican airport is not owned by Jamaica. It's owned by China, and they pay lease to China for it. That's ridiculous.
crazy, crazy,
Do you
crazy.
know what I mean? So then, how do you? I don't know. How like if you had foresight, you would never make that deal. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So
mm,
we have to think like that. So over time, it's great. Jamaica's got a new airport. Jamaica's got a brand new motorway, all these things, and it's being built and it's like makes it look good and it's great for tourism. It might bring some more money in, but who owns it is not the Jamaican. And the Jamaican
mm.
person isn't necessarily, the average Jamaican person isn't actually reaping the rewards of that benefit. So that war is in a different aspect. That's an
Mm.
economic kind of war, because you're seeing one thing, and then whoever had the airport before, maybe the government, they're making the money, but it's not the people of the country. Do you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? So they're losing out, and then it's like before you know it, Chinese might be the second language, and they haven't had to use any force, they haven't had to use any guns, any weapons, and before you know it, it's like another China, so to speak. Do you know what I mean?
It's
So
interesting. That's an interesting and important topic because, like you said, I guess that is a type of warfare in terms of gaining control over another country slowly but surely, but still having that same impact, but it just taking a longer time, and there's less violence, there's less destruction, and it's almost doing it in a way that becomes acceptable to the people of Jamaica because
mhm.
that's what they're used to, and slowly they start to take over. And I think the same thing is happening in a few African countries as well. I've seen a few friends talk about Nigeria and the impact the Chinese are having over there, which is
Yeah,
it's, it's scary, man.
it's very scary because what we're seeing is a lot of people, like we got like people like Akon. Like Akon is a great businessman, and I don't have anything bad really to say about him, but he talks about getting a line of credit from China to be able to build certain things in Africa, which is great, but it could only benefit him if he's the only one that can get that line of credit, and
Mm,
only and his family line are all sorted, they can all live lavishly, live around the world or whatever. But then the people of the African country, wherever he's building these projects, if they're not able to benefit, then it's almost like a sellout. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, he's doing it for his
So
own benefit rather than the people. And it's
exactly, exactly.
it's just make it like he's making good moves. It's just making sure that his morals are still in place and that he's not just lining his own pocket, and he's doing it for, I guess, the greater good of the country he's from.
Mm. But what would
But
you
yeah, we've
do
got
in that situation? Oh yeah, let's hit up Land's ways. So
mm,
I'll play it quickly.
Well, they all started on this bullshit theory of trickle down economics. And we have these bigger oligarch rich people make these big brass decisions for small minorities that are the The people that get the brood of the bullshit, the brood of the bust. You know, they don't have to go and walk outside and interact with this Chinese airport and never reap anything from it. You know, they're getting the benefits from it. They're getting the money. Their generational wealth is being built. So they don't see the harm that they're doing to this community and how much money they're taking away from just not giving the community the ownership of this airport and letting them run it and how it would actually run out. No, they're giving it to the oligarchs. It's a constant system of, oh, it'll sooner or later get down there to the poor people, but it never does.
So important, man. I'm just so happy that you lands where you're listening and you're on the same wavelength as us because what you're saying there is so true. And that's why sometimes I wanna like right now I wanna pose that question to you, Jam. Like, what would you do? Like, look, you want to start your business or whatever it is. You got a great business idea. It could be for renewable energy, right? And the
Mm.
Chinese like, look, we want to invest. Look, we'll give you £1 billion. Like, where does your moral take you? Do you know what I mean?
I think
What?
I wouldn't say I'd have to assess my situations, but it wouldn't be an instant no. So I think contractually you can maybe put things in place that kind of benefits both parties. I know the Chinese still are slowly getting more power with that, but you can also make that benefit, I guess, the people of Jamaica in terms of ownership and or the people whoever the people are going to be. And if it was me, in terms of ownership and the community and forward thinking down the line, is there a buyout clause in there? Is there a reduced amount once they get their money back? I've got my Dragon's Den head on, but yeah, yeah. I think there can be a way to make it work. As long as I guess my morals are in place and it's an offer that they'd accept at the same time.
I think so. Just to kind of back on what you're the kind of like back up what you're saying. So what Nipsey Hussle used to say as well. He used to always talk about things happening on his term. So
Mm,
things he wants is ownership. He's not giving up no ownership to nobody. Do you know what I mean? Like he might give up like a partnership and you might do a partnership so you both own 50-50, but he can't give up all his ownership. And it's
mm,
understanding things like that. When it comes to business, it's like it's got to make sense for both parties. And when it does make sense for both parties, you want to look at a fair deal, but you also have to have things that are non-negotiable. So if the Jamaican people were talking about this airport, the non-negotiable should be Jamaica owns Jamaican's airport. That's non-negotiable. You
mm-hmm,
might want to fund it and you might want to do XYZ, but we're gonna always own, let's say, always 90% or something.
yeah,
You have that percentage that's there, and it's like, okay, that's a non-negotiable. And then that because some of these non-negotiables is what protects your community. And I feel like those are the things that you would have to have in your mind or be aware of to be able to make certain deals. So if the Chinese were to come to you with whatever, these are your non-negotiables. Because what we
mm,
end up doing sometimes is putting our non-negotiables of things that we want on a personal level. I want to make sure my kids are fine. I want to make sure that they can get to any college or university around the world that they might need to go to achieve whatever it is that they might want to achieve. Um, I want to be able to have access to certain finances. So I got my other side businesses, growing and booming or whatever. These things are all great, right? But that only helps out self and maybe your
mm-hmm,
generation. And this is exactly what Lansway was talking about. And but that might not help the majority. And that's where we lose as a people sometimes to a certain extent. Sometimes we just sort ourselves out, but we don't sort we don't everybody else loses sometimes.
mm, for
It's
sure.
at the butt of everyone else. So it is difficult, man. Let's play Lansway again.
I've learned something in my life, short years of life. Um, no one credits you money without them expecting you, at least a small percent of you, never paying it back. And that's because they know that they will always have it in debtor. And having a debtor is a source of income. It's a source of income that will forever be there. So why are they even offering me this $1 billion? Do they think I'll be able to pay it back, or do they think my idea is actually going to reap this benefit of the $1 billion that it's supposed to be in production for, or are they just entrapping me so they can own it? And once they own it, they can move it about however they want. And that's what's going on with land and farmland now. It's getting entrapped, owned, and then taken away. And then the food is being gerrymandered by war now. Russia has most of our wheat supply, and that's a big fucking problem.
That's crazy. I didn't
That
even
is
know that. Did
crazy.
you know
Yeah,
that?
no, Lansway's got the connect. He's got the connect. He's got the plug. Because yeah, this is information that's new to me.
Yeah, like and this is where war is bigger than it's just guns and stuff.
Mm.
Like for example, how did you feel when you saw the people from the UK volunteering to join the Ukraine's like army or military to try and help them, fight this war?
I mean, I guess it's honorable. They're putting their lives. Um, I guess they're giving their lives to, I guess, help the people of Ukraine. But it just wasn't something that I'd ever consider, or it wouldn't ever enter my mind. I could go down and go like the donation route or finding ways I can help the Ukrainian people. But I never thought it would be a place for me to risk my life or put my life at risk um
Mm,
in exchange for that. What about
mm.
you? What were your thoughts like when you started seeing these people volunteer? I guess yeah, like
I
Lansway said, their
n-
own livelihood.
you know what? No offense to them, I get it. We're in a stage in our lives or in a period in our lives where social media is so strong. So you know every week you can feel so strongly about a subject, and
Mm,
I think to me that's kind of what's happened here, in it. Like everybody's like feel so strongly about you know this situation, and it's like it's not right, and I get it. Like we are receiving information from news sources that show us that what Putin is doing is wrong, right?
mm,
Um, you know, and during wartime, there's a lot of propaganda that gets posted out there. So, and the way it can be construed and the way it's being portrayed, especially here in the UK, you're definitely gonna feel an emotional trigger to want to go and fight and help the Ukrainians out. And I can't lie, I probably had that same feeling.
mm.
But then I have to ask myself, is what I'm gonna do actually gonna help them? I'm like, is what I'm gonna do out there actually gonna be of any help on a
Benefit,
mass
yeah. Who
scale?
does it benefit anyone? Yeah.
Does it benefit anyone? Am I gonna be a liability? I don't speak any Russian, I don't speak any Ukrainian. So what am I fighting for? Then, so that's how I'm gonna feel. I'm gonna ask these questions to myself. Um, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm definitely not gonna have anything like no armor, helmets. I've never had any army training in my life. I don't see me going. I don't
Mm,
see me putting my name up um, for that. But this is where, when you said it was honorable, I get it. But then at the same time, it's like we have to add sense to it as well.
mm,
And I think that if we just act straight off emotion, you're probably not going to last long. And
mm.
you're just going to be seen as just like, like, he tried to help and he did what he could and it wasn't enough. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So yeah, that's where it is for me. Like those guys who did go, it's like good on them, but I couldn't make that decision. I feel like I don't know enough to even go and do any of it, you know?
Mm.
I don't have enough information for me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go towards the danger zone, you know? So unless it was
It'd be in.
my people,
Mm.
come.
I was gonna say it'd be interesting to. There obviously there could be a way. I don't know if there is, but it'd be interesting to actually speak to those guys that went out there after like a week, just to see if they feel like they've made the right decision. and what their thoughts
Mm,
are on the battle they're facing, just to see if their
mm,
thoughts have changed. I can imagine
yeah.
they probably feel more inspired and back their situation once going over there though,
Yeah,
seeing
I think
the
yeah.
effects of the war and being closer to the Ukrainian people.
Yeah, and also I feel like for sometimes the situation like this might just give like, meaning to their lives. Some people like the
For
guy, I
sure.
think one guy was like retired or something, right? And like I might just give him reason, it's like, well, I served in served in Iraq. I can do this, and
Mm,
I can't knock that. I'm not gonna say their reasons are not valid. I can only give it from my perspective. Their reason is valid for themselves, but for myself, I would not be doing that.
mm,
And I'm also not a person who just believes in peace as well. Like I want peace. Don't get me wrong, I really do. But there are times where if you are attacking what I have, peace is not the answer for me.
mm.
Like I'm not gonna just, you know what, let's just be cool. Um, like it
You
has
just
to,
can't take it.
I,
Yeah, yeah. You can't just sit there and
yeah,
take it.
yeah, I can't just sit there and take it or, like just forgive. Maybe that's not the right word because there are elements of forgiving, but like if I look at like something like what's happened to China, China was never seen as this massive powerhouse like they are today. But they've
Mm,
planned to come and do this, and it also looks like they're infiltrating other places as well. That's a plan. So it's like I could forgive them, and we could have been at peace all this time, but they're in the back making plans on how they're gonna take regain control, you know?
yeah.
So it's like I can't forgive that. like like I can maybe forgive, but then I can't be naive to think that nothing's gonna come back.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So
no, for sure.
yeah,
For sure.
that's where I stand on the situation. And I hear that they're blocking Instagram in Russia. Uh phew, that sounds like a move that the Chinese would make.
Mm,
In the sense of, just the way that they govern their people. They do a lot of blocking of certain things and information, and they only want, their people to see the information that they are giving to them, which is a
mm,
dangerous thing. But it's also dangerous on our side as well because we get given a lot of misinformation, and people run away with that as well. So you have to find a balance, so it's a scary time. And right now it just feels like a massive like vendetta between the West and the East.
mm.
And I already have my opinions on the West. Obviously, the West is probably all I've ever known. So some people were like, well, why would you ever go against this? Do you not like you always want, the opportunity to make it big and be rich and all this other stuff? And it's like, you know what? I can't lie to you. Like those things that get dangled in your face sometimes, and you weigh it up in your importance of life, or once you die and you look at like, okay, what was really important? I don't think you're gonna say any of those things.
Mm.
You're not gonna be like, yeah. I was so good that I came up from something and I had nothing, and now I'm the richest man in the world. And that's not to put anybody off like becoming rich. I do think it's still a great achievement, but in terms of your meaning of your life, it's a bit different. That I feel like there has to be some kind of like purpose, because
Mm.
whether it's like I'm gonna feed people, I'm gonna heal people, I'm gonna do something else. Is I don't know. It's like you still need that kind of meaning in life, and I think sometimes that's the part of the West that I don't like. But then I guess the East, they live in a different way. Right now it's like a democracy against a dictatorship. So like one man having all the power. But then
Mm.
it's like there's an element of where like if I did want one man to have all the power, I probably want Putin than than Boris Johnson. If
Mm.
you get what I mean. So it's like it's like there's no right answer. It's like the best of two poisons sometimes, and you're just trying to take
Yeah,
the
no,
best of what
definitely.
you like. You know what I mean? You're just trying to take like the best of what you like. Like you know, in a dictatorship, sometimes what they aim for is everybody to have the same things, so everyone's on the same level. But then, there, with everyone being the same level, there's still that one person who has the most power, and then
Hmm.
they can take liberties with that power, and then you're gonna be like, no, I'd rather be in a dictatorship. You know, oh, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
in a yeah, no, not dictatorship, in a
Democracy.
democracy. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's I just find it mad that there's like it's only those two spectrums. I don't like
Yeah, it's
it.
either one or the other. Yeah, it's a bit mad.
Yeah.
It's a bit mad. It's like it's kind of like you want. It's like football. You kind of want fan ownership in there somewhere. You want the
Yeah.
people to be more involved. But yeah, I guess it
And
is what it
it,
is for now.
yeah, it is what it is for now, and until we can understand or see life in a different way, and this is all that we have.
Hmm.
I think there's an element that we can learn maybe from like the animal kingdom, whether like people in the animal kingdom, like how do ants work? I know there's like the queen ant or whatever, but like they're all doing their thing. But who knows? They might be complaining like, "Why I gotta carry this leaf and she don't have to carry the
Mm.
leaf and she does all this." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it's like we might have to understand how other economics of the world work because that's how it works, and it things work in systems and things like that. It's like, okay, what's the best system?
Mm.
And is there one just best system, or can every system work, but every system will just have their moment in time?
Differences. Yeah, maybe that's
Yeah.
maybe that's it. Maybe that is it.
So
That is a strong statement there.
yeah, it's
Mm.
yeah, this episode has gone real deep. To be fair, I didn't expect it to go that deep, but there's
Mm.
still way more to talk about in terms of
No, definitely.
Ukraine and stuff. But I know we're approaching that time for you. I don't know how much time you got left, but
Mm.
yeah,
I've got a
man,
bit of
we
time
can.
still, but yeah, shout out to Land's Way as well, because yeah,
Yeah,
I've learned a few things in the last 50 minutes, and his insight into, I guess, his past and his time in the military in the US and his information on Russia and what they provide to the rest of the world. Yeah, it's been insightful. So yeah, shout out to him.
yeah, man. Big shout out to him. He did so much. And just speaking on his time in the military as well, it just gives you a different perspective. That is if everything what he was saying is true, because sometimes
Mm,
information, you know what I mean, you know what people are like on the internet. But yeah, man, big
mm,
him up. I learned a lot, and there's clearly a lot more for us to learn as well. Just even like the whole perspective on what's happening in Russia. I did see on Half Cast podcast, is that what they call themselves? I think they changed their name now.
yeah.
Um, they brought up one of the propagandas, like how this war is like more important than the war in Syria or the war in Iraq, and it's like, come on.
Yeah, we didn't get to touch on that. Yeah, we didn't get to touch that
So
because that's been something that's been circling social media about the importance of
mm,
each war and people as a whole in different communities, different races, and how media highlights the one over the other and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll have
but
to
if you
we'll have
don't
to
have
uncover that
any,
on another.
yeah, we definitely do. You have to uncover it. Maybe on another in the next episode, maybe we do a
Mm,
part two, who knows. But
mm,
these are the things that can happen when you don't own I guess your narrative. You need to be able to own your narrative. So I know you mentioned this in the past, but if you know like people, if you say anything about anyone that's Jewish or whatever, instantly they come out and shut it down. You know,
mm,
like that's power. And other races sometimes don't have that power.
mm.
Um, and that's where it's like it probably does make sense to own your own media. Um, and things like that. And that's probably the power of us having our own podcast as well. We can say things that we feel, and people who listen to what we say they can also gain a different perspective, as opposed to what's already out there.
For
So
sure,
yeah, man. So
for sure.
yeah, no, there's no hot seat question this week. I can't lie to you. Um, no hot seat question, but we can just leave it for the followers, isn't it? Like, what are you willing to die for? Let us know in the comments below. If you do listen to this on YouTube, this will be up on YouTube. And if you are listening to this on Spotify, Google, Google Podcasts, Amazon, please just do us one favor and just hit that follow or subscribe button. It just helps us out a lot. And expect some more things coming from myself and Jam in the Social Living Podcast. And also, don't forget to follow us on our Instagram page. I'm gonna throw that into the description of this episode as well. Hit that up. My boy Jam is gonna be handling that. And
Yeah,
yeah,
for
man.
sure.
We'll see where we go. So love, peace, and yeah, that's a wrap.